Hello, everyone. This is Tony Kaufman for the next episode of the World Class Mentors, the program that we've designed to celebrate the folks who have achieved truly world-class status through either sharing their stories, writing their books, and honoring their mentors. Along those same lines, we have a very special guest for you today, a friend of mine, and I'm proud to call him a friend. His name is Dave Claar. Very, very good. We've got a celebration coming down the pike for you, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And what I'm talking about is Dave has been studying and dedicated himself since the spring of 2002 to learning and understanding the three planes of reality. So you've been studying mind, body, and spirit. And you just finished your book entitled The Filtered Soul, that educates the reader on how to take any dream imagined in the mind and manifest it into physical world. This sounds really far out there, Dave. Bring me back down to earth. Your book is going to launch in July, so we're really excited about that, and it's an international launch. Tell me a little bit about what it means to study three planes of reality, Dave.
Well, I guess more in a religious perspective, we hear about the mind, body, and soul, but I don't think most people recognize that that's how we in the book, I go into describing how we perceive and how we express through the three planes. The body, obviously, it's pretty simple. We just observe through our five senses. And then we express with the help of the mind through our movements. The mind is almost instantly perceives whatever the five senses does, because without the mind, the senses would be useless anyway. We wouldn't be able to see, we wouldn't be able to smell, taste, hear, or feel any sensation physically. And then the spirit is, just as we're all familiar with, is omnipotent, unlimited. It's the greatest thing that, it's God is what it is. So however someone relates to God, whether that's, some people use universe, some people have this unlimited force that created everything and creates and continues to create everything that we see, feel, hear, touch, everything. So the idea is to remove the filters of the five senses and not allow those to control us. And more importantly, remove what I like to say is the logic from the mind, because the logic is really what limits our imagination. It limits what we think is possible, which really, as anyone knows, the idea.
That's a really interesting concept, Dave. And you know what? It's so funny because you know me, I sit in a lot of airports, and and it's funny that you say that we live our lives through the eyes of a 5-year-old, because in my mind, whenever I'm sitting in an airport, I see the children and how they move and how they interact and how they accept the world, and it really is unfiltered. You know, you almost wish that adults would do that. I mean, they dance, they swing around, they twirl in front of everybody. They don't care if their pants are too tight or if they've got a little tummy or
Yeah.
I love the quality and the richness that children bring to them. So it's really, really interesting that you say that, and I love that. So now you're relatively young, so you've been practicing. You've been a practicing life coach for 3 years now. You've got over 100 clients. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, the first one that I got into, how I came up with the idea to be a life coach, and it took me a couple of years to actually take the activity, which is a big lesson that we can all learn, is that an idea is only as useful as the use that we give it. But I discovered I wanted to be a life coach. It was actually through another life coach who was helping me get through the grieving process of my father. But then I finally took some action in the fall of 2014 and signed up with a company that was focused on removing subconscious blocks through a breathing technique that they have. And anyone that's not familiar with it, our subconscious mind pretty much is the operating system for who we are. So when we can change those, ultimately we change the results we get. And how we would or how we would test the validity of the idea that our client was sharing with us is through muscle testing, because that gives us whether, if it comes up weak, then it shows up that what they're saying may not be true, and then we put some attention towards that. And then the second one is one that was two parts to it. There was a one-on-one coaching. Then there's also a training and facilitating a 12-week program that allows people to create a dream with no limitations, removes, like I talked about, the senses and the logic from the mind, and allows someone to dream, like you talked about, the kid in the airport that's off in their own little world that has these big dreams of being whatever. Allows us adults again to, I guess, in a way, start thinking like a 5-year-old, where we can dream, and whatever that dream is, we have a 12-week system that's set up to manifest that dream, either within those 3 months or get in a pretty stable path that puts us in the right direction of manifesting that dream. And some things we can't get in 3 months, some things are easily to get in a week. But once we change the mind, which is a big focus of where my coaching is really all about just reprogramming the subconscious mind. So again, that's pretty much what controls
mindset.
us.
Yeah. So your strategy to help people is starting at the mindset, which is kind of the root of all evil, right? Is how we think about ourselves. Yeah, and what we do subconsciously, as you said. It's interesting. Yep. Now, I want to know more about you, Dave. I mean, you're in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me, where were you born? And I want to know what made Dave the David that he is today. Can you kind of walk me down that?
I don't know if I can remember all that, but I was born in Northeast Ohio, the youngest of 3 kids, which meant my parents really didn't have to punish me much because my 2 older brothers were more than willing to keep me in check and slap me around. So kind of had a mediocre academic career. As a kid, just more went to school for social purposes. I didn't really care about my grades. Didn't do very well, and went to college because that was the thing back in the day, is go to school, get good grades, and you get a good job, and I didn't participate in that idea either. Then what got me started in the self-development in 2002 was there was a girl that, this was really the first real relationship I was ever in, who I was just, I think I was in love with her as soon as she started hanging out with me. So I easily fell for her, and she was already played the game of dating for a while, and so I guess I was that overly kind guy that got really annoying fast. So she broke up with me, and at that point, I was heartbroken and kind of lost. Like, how am I ever going to get another woman like this? And that's when I started studying communication. Communications turned into psychology, different parts of psychology. Studied spirituality, ontology. A lot of my focus now is, again, in the working with the mind, how it works through, and how the thoughts coordinate into our movements, and then the universal laws. I know a lot of people are probably familiar with the law of attraction, but that's one of the laws, but there's more laws that once you understand how to use them, really can benefit you. And they're laws created by the universe, so they're not changeable by man. So according, like the laws that are made by man, that's made by the judicial system, those get manipulated, those get changed, those can be overlooked, unfortunately. But the laws of the universe is the one who controls those, so there's no way to escape it. Unlike crime, where you can escape those. So
right.
Either you play along, or either way, you're going to use them. You want to use them intentionally, or do you want to use them accidentally? But I would say the person who woke me up the most, or the earliest, was Tony Robbins. And since then, I've always been a huge fan of the way he thinks, how he is as a speaker, how he is as a coach, how he is with his kids. I've put a lot of attention into studying him. Another one recently, in the last couple of years, that didn't really know about until my first certification is Bob Proctor. He's been a huge influence. That's where I studied a lot of the mind. Between Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor, studying the mind of those two different perspectives is, to me, seems it handles everything I need to know about the mind. Even though I know there's a lot more to learn, and I'm not gonna stop learning. So it's and recently, one of Bob Proctor's really good friends, her name's Mary Morrissey, who's actually who I got the second certification through. She's been around since mid-'80s, early '80s, and she's the one that created that 12-week program that I have, that I've been trained to facilitate, that she's been using for over 30 years, and it's taken her life in amazing places. So between those three people, I would say those are my three biggest influences in who I am, how I relate to people, and how I give to the world.
Can you give us an example, of someone that you have helped? What is in our world we call it, what is your avatar, which means what is your perfect client? Who would you be ready to serve now? Who are you looking for?
I believe, because of my past experiences and what I've went through, not necessarily because of my training, would be people that are dealing with midlife crisis. Like I mentioned, my dad died of cancer in 2012, so I've dealt with that. I had alcohol abuse that put me into bankruptcy. I got the DUI. I got the whole package deal of alcohol abuse, so I've dealt with that. I've worked a job making six figures, but it was very unfulfilling, so I left that. I know a lot of people in midlife crisis, they go to college, they follow the system, getting good grades, and they get the good job. They work up the corporate ladder, and they get to a point where it's unfulfilling, and even though they're making six figures or multiple six figures, it doesn't do it for them anymore. So I've experienced that. I started in Ohio, moved to Texas a little over 5 years ago. I moved cross country, went through foreclosure. I've done most of the things you're not supposed to do as an adult. I've went through all that, and now I'm in the best shape of my life, physically, definitely mentally, spiritually. I'm more in tune with the universe than ever. So I think I've taken all those, what typically maybe stop people in life or detour people for a long time, and found ways through self-development, affirmations like you talked about, and have overcome all of them. And I think it's just kind of the idea of, like they say, with an arrow, you have to pull back before you can go forward. So I think I've been pulled back many times, stumbled over things, and I've been stuck in those zones where I felt helpless. And as soon as I awoke into who I was, then realized that it was just nothing. It was just a result of who I was being, and I just had to create a new mindset to get different results. So I think, long and the short of it, I would say midlife crisis people, someone that's going into it. I'm going to say 35 to maybe 55, 60 years old. Just someone who's stuck in life, that has given up, and they think that they just have to maintain the same even keel and give up on their dreams and just be what is considered, unfortunately, the average American, which I believe everyone can have an extraordinary life.
Excellent, Dave. And I hear that we're going to be able to hear you speak on Wednesday at the meetup, the Houston Speaks chapter. I think they're going to be very lucky to have you and to meet you. You've just finished your book. I know you're in the process of publishing, and so that's why we're planning your launch out here in the next month or so. And I'm excited to see that come out, and I'm excited to hear you on stages and helping people. So you've got 2 coaching certifications, and you do something called muscle testing. I've seen that and I'm aware of it in many ways. I mean, I've seen people stand in the front of the room and they pull somebody's arm out, and then they kind of put a little pressure on it to see if it goes down while he's telling the truth, or if it goes down further when he's telling a lie. And so, is that the kind of muscle testing that you do?
Well, what I did was I would do it with myself. Because there's a way, once we build rapport with people, we share the same vibration. There's Napoleon Hill talked about it in Think and Grow Rich, and it's been repeated many times. But the idea of a mastermind, how we all link up into the same vibration. Once we're in the same vibration, now we're sharing. Like you and I right now are sharing the same vibration. So between us, if we were to talk about maybe a possibility that we wanted to create together, you and I could come up with an idea that neither one of us would come up with independently. So when we're muscle testing, we're on the same vibration. So I can, if something seems questionable, because people, again, live their life as a 5-year-old. So when they start telling me something that doesn't really make sense, I can muscle test it to see, is this just an idea they have in their mind, or is this actually truth? Because a lot of people live their life in stories, not really in the practical world. So when I can recognize that what they're saying isn't really true, what we can do then, or what I would do then, is reprogram the mind to give that up. And the thing is with the universe, the universe always wants to be full. So when you take something out of it, it wants to fill itself in. So we have to intentionally replace that with a positive affirmation. And what that does is prevent, because the subconscious mind takes in whatever it observes. There's no way other than through the conscious mind to block that out. So if we're not paying attention to what we're doing and we observe something that we can perceive as somehow negative, then it fills it in with a negative thought. So we want to, as soon as we remove that space in the mind, we want to replace it rather quickly to make sure that that area is already taken over by something that's positive. So with the muscle testing, I would just do it with someone. I wouldn't even tell them I was doing it. I'd just do it. I mean, I'd introduce it to them, but I didn't really have to go into an explanation of the purpose and what use it was for us. It seemed like they would just be okay with it because they were looking for help and they had a lot of faith in it. I was able to transform their life in a call.
That's pretty impressive. So let me ask you this. When you say self-testing, how do you do that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How do you do personal muscle testing? I'm kind of...
Like for myself, or if I'm doing it, if I'm having a conversation with someone? For myself, it just make like the OK sign with your fingers, and then you pull with the other hand. It doesn't make a difference, left hand, right hand, or if you use left hand or right hand. And a way to calibrate the accuracy of it is you want to focus on something that you know is true. Like your name, you say, my name is Tony Kaufman. Make sure that comes up. Because it's not only what's said, it's more about, and the same as in communication, it's not what's said, it's what's meant. And what's meant always isn't what's said. So we got to make sure that when you would say, my name is Tony Kaufman, that you're saying it with, I am Tony Kaufman. Or if it's your birthday, or if it's, and then first you want to ground yourself in truth, then question whatever it is that would be going on. So then you could say, my name is Dave Claar, and obviously that would come up weak. If it comes up weak, then it's not true.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, so I'm doing the OK sign on my left hand, the OK sign on the right hand, and you interlink the circles, right?
Or you can just stick one finger out and just pull it.
Okay. All right. So, and yeah, you're right. There is a certain resistance. Okay, so see, I've learned something new, Dave. All right, so listen, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, where would they be calling? How do you have a website or a landing page? How do they get a hold of you, David?
Well, my number is 979-451-8896. And then on Facebook, I have my company site, which it's under Pro to Profound. It's PROTO, and then Profound, PROFOUND, LLC, is where I've been using communication online. And how I originated that name was pro, as we're all pros in something. And then profound's a double meaning. It's profound as in the idea of something that's just extraordinary or something that's exceptional, but also profound in the pro that found their purpose, the pro that found the results they wanted, a pro that just found a life that they enjoyed living.
Well, that makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We've talked about Dave, and we talked about where you came from. We talked about the people who inspired you. What is this is the hard part now. What is your legacy, and what's your pay forward? What do you want to accomplish here in the next few years with the launch of your book and then your career? Where are you looking?
Where I've been pulled to, what really drives me is two things. I want to create two nonprofits. The first one, I haven't discovered a name for it yet, but I'm thinking they're going to be called Forgiveness Farms. And because I'm a big fan of forgiveness, I believe that's how we get through anything on the end and feel great at the end, is through forgiving. And it talks about a 5-year-old forgive whatever happened when you were 4 years old, and now all of a sudden that problem doesn't exist anymore. But the Forgiveness Farms are going to be where I'm going to there's going to be an interview process with the homeless, and make sure that they actually want to get off the street. And through the interview, we'll be able to identify, is this someone who really wants to get off the street, or is this someone that, I guess, enjoys the freedom of being homeless? Then have them build their own tiny home, or maybe get some sponsorship to have tiny homes delivered, or a small place to live that's going to have electricity, have indoor plumbing. The idea is to build a campground of ultimately, I don't know, 10, 20, maybe 50 houses on one property, and have it be a place that's self-sustained, where they'll have their own crops to grow based on whatever area that is able to be grown there. If it's in the South, have fruit trees, so corn, beans, whatever it is that, and create an abundance of it, so then it becomes a way to generate income for the area. Then, but what I want to do that I haven't been able to find is use this 12-week program that I've been trained in, to be able to facilitate them from the street of where they felt hopeless to maybe CEO of Fortune 500 company, start their own coaching business, and those who are ambitious and appreciate what I did, maybe make them an executive inside of this. And my goal is to be in the top 20 cities in America. So to have one relatively close to all the top 20 major cities in America. The second is when I'm...
David. No, go ahead.
And then the second nonprofit I want to create, I'm calling Truce. It's lowercase tr, then capital YOU, lowercase ce. It's going to be a peace movement. Right now, the vision I see for it is almost like a Lollapalooza, a touring concert of, there'll be speakers, healers, hoping to get the biggest names in the game, get Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Mary Morrissey, other great people like Jack Canfield, There's people that ultimately what it's about is a universal mindset, that removing the significance of our differences. So because of our age or our race or where we're born or whatever social status that we have, that it's absolutely meaningless as soon as you walk through that. It's just a human having, or your spirit having a human experience, and we realize that there really is no difference. There's an Indian saying that they have that no limb would be foolish enough to fight another limb. So basically the tree of life, we're all one tree. It's foolish for one limb to attack another, because you can imagine hurting another limb hurts the tree, hurts the whole universe of humanity. And what I want to do is convert the time of enlightenment, which I think now has become self-destructive because people are so caught up in their egos of what I can get and what I can gain, to what I can give. So that's going to be a part of trying to give up the idea that I'm different or I'm separate from anyone else. So between those two, that's really the big vision for what I want to do. Keep the coaching going, create more programs, and allow that to be able to help people when I'm not available, and then be available for certain one-on-one coaching too. So between those three things, that's really where my heart is and where I want to give to the world.
Well, you're an excellent representation. And by the way, folks, this is David Claar, C-L-A-A-R. And please take a look at his book. We're going to be launching it here in July. We're looking forward to working with Dave. I love the way that he put down his Pay It Forward. He's got two wonderful programs, the Forgiveness Farms and Truce, with a TRUCE, because that involves every single one of us. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about Dave Claar here in the future. And I want to welcome and thank you so much for being a part of the World Class Mentors. This is a radio show and podcast celebration of people who have truly achieved world class through sharing their stories, honoring their mentors, and paying it forward. That's what we're all about. Dave, I want to thank you so much. You've been awesome.
Thanks a lot.
And thank you.